y'all, I'm Paula Deen, and today we're preparing some of my favorite brunch recipes filled with seasonal flavors that will make this morning meal the highlight of your day. But before we get started, I'm going up to Mountain Dew Maple, where I'm gonna get to tap a tree for the freshest, sweetest maple syrup to top my indescribably delicious French toast casserole. And then back in the kitchen, I'll be busy slicing and dredging my tomatoes for my Southern brunch specialty, the Lady and Son's favorite fried green tomato, topped with eggs Benedict. And finally, there's always room for my strawberry gelatin fruit mold. So y'all put on a pot of coffee and invite the family. It's brunch time, Southern style. Good morning, y'all. Today I'm doing a spring brunch show, and you're in for a special treat. We're going straight to the woods to get our very own pure maple syrup. I'm ready, are y'all? I was so excited when my friend Jay invited me over to see how maple syrup gets its start. I was so amazed at how quiet the forest was. You could actually hear the sap dripping right into the bucket. And then I had so much fun when he took me back to the sugar house to see how all this comes together. Wow, Jay, a lot of steam in here.
Yes, it's
It looks like the place is on fire.
we're boiling off the excess water to concentrate the sugars that makes our maple syrup.
The whole process is truly amazing. I swear to Peter I could spend all day, but I've got to get home and start cooking me up something with my fresh maple syrup. Wasn't that great? Why don't we go into the kitchen and get started? I've got a terrible big sweet tooth. Okay. We're gonna start today, y'all, with a very, very traditional Southern food, a fried green tomato. They're in a light buttermilk batter. Some people cook theirs in cornmeal. In fact, my grandmother Paula did. She would cook hers in cornmeal, and my mother would cook hers in flour, and I actually liked my mother's better. So that's the way I do them today. We're gonna take a green tomato, and we're gonna cut them about this thickness. And we're gonna throw these into a colander, and we're gonna toss them with salt. And this is a very important step because that salt is gonna pull out the moisture in your green tomatoes so they won't get mushy on you after they're fried. And we're just gonna toss them around in that salt so that they're good and coated. All right, now we're gonna put these in a bowl and cover them in buttermilk. So we're gonna let those soak for a minute. I've gotten our pan nice and hot, and you can see I'm cooking in a black cast iron skillet. And I'm gonna just pour the peanut oil into that hot skillet, let that get hot. So we're just gonna toss them in our self-rising flour and push them to the side. All right, I'm gonna wash my hands, and then we're gonna give our grease a water test real quick to see if it's ready for us. And I know y'all have seen me do the water test on my grease, and that's what we're fixing to do now. We're killing two birds with one stone. We're gonna wash my hands, and we're gonna get some water over here to our pot. And you can hear it sizzling, so that lets me know it's ready. I've just got to share with y'all a cute story. One night, I was just blown away by a guest that walked into the restaurant, Miss B. Arthur. And I was so excited. I said, I go to bed with you every night. I crawl in the bed and watch the Golden Girls. And I said, well, now what do you think you want to eat tonight? And she said, well, I love fried green tomatoes. She said, actually, I cook those at home. And I said, well, how do you cook them? She was so cute. She said, I serve them with a dollop of whipping cream. And a few minutes later, I went back out the table. She said, no, no, honey, I told you wrong. It's not whipping cream. It's sour cream. And I told you when I came into the kitchen a little while ago that we've got two traditional foods that we're giving a twist to. So I guess you're wondering, What in the world are we gonna do with these fried green tomatoes? We're actually gonna use them in Eggs Benedict. Instead of using the muffin, we're gonna have a fried green tomato as our base. And think how many calories we're gonna save doing away with that bread. That grease and flour, it ain't got no calories in it. While these are browning off, I'm gonna go ahead and start on the hollandaise. This is a great little recipe. It's no stress, no strain. We're gonna start with 2 fresh egg yolks. I'm gonna just pour 4 tablespoons of cream. I'm gonna put a pinch of sugar and the juice of a half a lemon. And we're just gonna stir this over boiling water until it's thick, and that's it. And this should take about 3 minutes. And if it gets too thick, I've got a little chicken stock over here that we'll thin it with, because as soon as it's ready, I'm gonna take it off the heat and just let it sit on the side. We've got all of our liquid in there now, so we're gonna add my favorite ingredient, y'all. Just a little pat of butter. Now, the only thing about using double boilers, you always wanna make sure that the water does not touch the top part of your double boiler. All right, let's check our tomatoes. They're great over here. So our tomatoes appear to be ready. So I'm gonna take them out and I'm gonna put them on a paper towel to drain all the peanut oil out of them. All right, that's starting to thicken a little bit around the edges. So we're just gonna put that to the side, and we're almost ready to assemble our dish. But before we can put it together, we got to have the eggs. I've got a pot of water boiling right here, and we're gonna crack our egg. And always remember, just in case something's wrong with your egg, to crack it first and drop it in another bowl. Before we drop our egg into our water, this is your secret ingredient for poaching eggs. If you'll put about a tablespoon of vinegar in your boiling water, it will cause the egg to shrink and it won't go all over your pot. So we're gonna drop it in there and see how it's already curling up around itself. I'm just gonna move those around a little bit just to make sure they don't stick to the pot. While they're cooking, I'm gonna start assembling our plate. I've really worked up an appetite out there in those woods today. And we're gonna start with 2 fried green tomatoes. And instead of the typical meat for this, which is Canadian bacon, we're gonna use regular good old country bacon. I'm gonna put it just like that. Isn't that a pretty poached egg? We're just gonna put it right on top of our tomato slice. And look at our hollandaise sauce, just perfect. Little dollop on each egg. Look how pretty this dish is. And it's time to dig in. Look at that. Fried green tomato, poached egg, and bacon. Great Gertie, what a gash. That is out of this world. If you think this will blow them away, French toast casserole. That's coming up next. At last, for the star of the show, pure maple syrup. This is gonna be one of those recipes that I really think that y'all are just gonna love. I think you'll wanna make sure it never leaves your files. You'll use it time and time again. Now we're starting with a good French bread. You can actually use any kind of bread you like. And we're gonna slice it about 1 inch thick on the bias. The great thing about this recipe is get the work out of the way before your family and friends get there. And with this dish, you'll always want to start with a generously buttered dish. So we're going to start by just layering our French bread kind of at an angle, and we're going to kind of tuck it in together. It'll probably take about a 13 to 16 ounce loaf of French bread. This bread is so good and fresh, but the wonderful thing about this recipe is the bread doesn't even have to be fresh, because by the time we get through with it, it's going to be soaked in milk and cream and butter. And that looks just about perfect. And the rest of this bread that you have left over, it'll make great breadcrumbs or even croutons. Now we're gonna make the custard to go over this. And this is so very simple. So we're gonna use 8 eggs. I really don't think that you can mess this dish up at all. It's so simple to make. Now you could actually do this with a handheld mixer, but I'm just gonna use a whisk today. To the eggs, we're gonna add about a cup of milk, 2 cups of cream. Are you catching on? You know what I'm talking about? Why you gonna love this recipe? Just a pinch of salt. Can't have it too sweet, can we? About 2 tablespoons of sugar to offset that salt. Let's see, we're gonna use about 1/4 of a teaspoon of cinnamon, 1/4 a teaspoon of nutmeg. This little machine is just the handiest thing. And about a teaspoon of pure vanilla extract. We're just gonna whisk that all together. And if you do decide to whip this with an electric mixer, just make sure you don't get it too bubbly. Now we're just gonna pour this on top of our bread, just like that. And we're gonna wanna make sure that it goes in between those slices. And just to make sure, I'm gonna go back in there and just help it along a little bit, just like that. I don't think you're ever gonna want French toast any other way after you try this. Now all we're gonna do now is cover this with foil, put it in the refrigerator overnight, and pull it out and bake it tomorrow morning. All right, it's very obvious that I can't wait until tomorrow. So I have another one here that's been soaking up all that good cream. Look at that. And all we have to do now is make our praline sauce. And we're gonna use about 1 cup of light brown sugar, about 2 tablespoons of white corn syrup, 1/2 a teaspoon of cinnamon, another 1/2 a teaspoon of nutmeg, and we're gonna take, don't be surprised, 1/2 pound of butter, and mix in there with it. And you'll wanna make sure that your butter is nice and soft. This is our praline sauce. It's gonna cover our French toast and give it a nice crunchy topping. And just to make sure it's good and crunchy, we're gonna add a cup of pecans to it. All right, we've got that all smoothed out now. We're gonna just put this on top of our French toast. I'm gonna drop it and then I'll come back and spread it. You know, this is maybe not one of those dishes that you'd wanna eat every morning. All right, we're just gonna smear that on just like we were frosting a cake. This is really too good to be true. Pralines and bread in one dish. I can't hardly stand it. It's ready to go into the oven. We're gonna put it in a 350-degree oven and we're gonna let this cook for 35 to 45 minutes. But guess what? I'm 1 step ahead. I have one ready. In with the new and out with the old. Look. Oh my goodness. Ain't life good? I'm so excited I can't hardly think of what I'm doing. Look, here we come. Oh. Spectacular French toast. What can I say? There's only one thing that this French toast needs. Pure maple syrup. Oh, I really hate to eat without y'all. It's tearing me apart. I'm sorry, but I have no words. You're just gonna have to make it. Strawberry mold is up next. On today's show, we've really had some belly gratifying foods. So to finish up today, I want something a little bit lighter. And we're gonna do a nice strawberry mold. And it's so simple, so easy. but yet so tasty. We're starting here with frozen strawberries, so you don't have to worry, you can make this year-round. And right now you see that I'm just trying to mash some of the excess liquid out of them, and you can see it draining down into the bowl. And I just bet we can find another use for that strawberry juice. And you can swap around your flavors. I'm using a strawberry gelatin today. We're gonna use 2 3-ounce packs. Ooh, that smells so good. It smells like cotton candy coming up my nose. And we're gonna add about a cup of boiling water. We're just gonna whisk that together until it's kind of dissolved. And while that's doing its thing, we're gonna come over here and we're gonna take 3 bananas and we're just gonna mash them up. Now you can do this several ways. You can actually use a mixer to do it. You can use your hands, or you can use the fork. Or you can actually break your banana up while it's in the peel, which is a pretty good way to do it too. So there's several different ways you can do this, but I'm gonna continue on with my fork, and we're gonna leave some chunky little pieces of banana in it. That looks just right. And we're gonna do a little bit more pressing. All right, we've got most of it out, so we're gonna just pour that in. And we've got a cup of canned crushed pineapple. And you're gonna wanna make sure that you get all the juice out of it too. Because like I said, you don't want too much liquid going in this dish. Oh, pretty, pretty, pretty colors. I have made this for my family for years. They just love it. In fact, this will almost serve as a dessert by the time we get through with it. We're just gonna fold that all together. And the last thing we're gonna add to it is about a cup of pecans. That looks like about a cup, doesn't it? See how good that looks. Now we're going to lightly spray our dish, and we're just gonna ladle. Doesn't that look yummy? We're just gonna ladle about half of this into our pan. That looks about it. You know, this is another one of those little recipes that you can switch about any way you like to. You can swap different flavors. You could even add little miniature marshmallows to this, would be delicious. All right, so all we're gonna do at this point is put it into the fridge and let it set. And as always, I'm on the ball, y'all. We got one ready. And to finish this dish is so simple. The secret ingredient to this dish is the sour cream. It gives it such a nice little twang that you're not expecting. And we're gonna put about a cup on our first layer and smear it out. That looks heavenly already, doesn't it? All that's left to do now is to put the reserve topping on top, and it's ready. My little children just loved this dish when they were little boys. All we have to do is put it in the fridge, let this continue to set real good, and then pull it out, and it's ready. And guess what? It's ready. What a nice finish to such a rich brunch. Let's see what it tastes like. Oh, it looks delicious. This really doesn't need much garnish, but I'm gonna put just a pretty fresh strawberry there with it and maybe a little sprig of mint. And let's see if I can scrape me out just a little dollop of sour cream. How nice is that? Let's see what this sweet baby's gonna taste like. It's just tongue titillating. Y'all stick around because when we come back, I'm going to show you a few things that'll make your sweet life even sweeter. I really think that this is probably my favorite time that I spend with y'all. I love sharing tips. There's something about us girls that just like to share what we know. One of my favorite things is to make vanilla sugar. You put 2 vanilla beans to approximately 1 pound of sugar. Just bury them down into your sugar. It will hold for about 6 months. And naturally, the longer it sits in there, the stronger it's gonna get. You can actually bake with this, use it just like you would any other sugar. but it's especially good in coffee. And our praline topping that we made earlier for that decadent French toast is great on top of ice cream. And the Jell-O mold, there's so many ways that you can do those. You can do them in the square pan like you saw me do them, or you can make them in the beautiful individual molds, or you can even make them in little ramekins. In other words, you can make your life just as sweet as you want it to be. I had such a great time being with y'all today. I love my family and friends so much, and the springtime of the year is like a rebirth for us all. And I hope that when you prepare these dishes for your family that they'll love them as much as mine. The French toast casserole is over the top. The fried green tomato Benedict and the strawberry mold, they're all so, so yummy. And I hope your family will love them. So until next time, America, I wish you best dishes from my kitchen to yours.